How's that looking? People can see that? Yeah, I've got a nod from Faye. Well, just before we do start, a little reminder that we're recording live at the moment on Facebook, and we'll be posting the video of the webinar on other social media afterwards. There'll be a little extra reminder later on, just in case anybody misses that. So I'll make a start. Welcome to our fourth webinar, Conscientious Objection to Conscription, and looking at the current situation in different countries. My name's Karen Robinson, for those who don't know me. I'm the campaign worker at Conscience Taxes for Peace, Not War. I'll just share a little bit about our organisation. So as the name implies, we campaign for a change in the law so that individuals can opt for the military part of their taxes to go to peaceful purposes instead. And as we've been talking about in some of our previous webinars, the right to conscientiously object to serve in the military in the UK was achieved in 1916. So there's no physical conscription in the UK today. However, we are each forced to pay for the military through our taxes. So the whole aim of Conscience is to campaign for individuals in the UK to have the right to conscientiously object to what we call this modern day financial conscription. And the webinar today is part of a series of Conscience webinars called Voices of Conscientious Objection. And we had a really interesting introduction to the whole topic from our colleague Simon Hill in the Peace Pledge Union. He did the first talk, and then we had conscientious objection during the First World War, amazing presentations, and then conscientious objection during the Second World War. I think Donald, who spoke at that one, is participating today. Welcome, Donald. And we've got the videos of all those three webinars on our website. The page on our website called Conscience Webinars. And we're very grateful to have received a grant for this series from Funding for Social Change. So this is the fourth webinar in the series, and the first international one, so we're very excited. Just a little bit about joining in this evening. Please feel free to use the chat section at the bottom of the Zoom screen at any time during the webinar. You might like to post comments or links, and if you'd like to type in any questions you have for our speakers, that would be wonderful. Those in the chat section too. And my colleagues, Jonathan, who's looking after the tech side as well, and Faye, my colleagues on the staff team at Conscience, will be collating your questions while the speakers are speaking. So what we'll do, shortly we'll have Gina Chappa and Murat speaking together as a joint presentation, and Jonathan's going to be facilitating the questions after Gina and Murat, and then Natalia will be speaking and Faye will be facilitating. And just a little extra reminder that we are recording live on Facebook. So our first guest speaker was to have been Derek Brett, who some of you may know, and he's going to give us an overview of conscientious objection to conscription in different countries. And we did a practice with him earlier in the week, and his knowledge is so wide and so deep on that subject. Unfortunately, he let us know today that he's not able to join us. He's not feeling very well. So rest up, Derek, and I'm sure we'll be in contact with him very soon, as soon as he's able, and we'll do an interview with him on video and post it to everybody participating tonight, and indeed on our website. So we look forward to that. And Our first speakers tonight are going to be Gina Chappa from the Republic of Cyprus. We're doing a joint talk with Murat Kanatli from the northern part of Cyprus. And their talk is going to cover lots of different things, I know. Gina and Murat are both board members of the European Bureau for Conscientious Objection. Murat is himself a conscientious objector. And they're going to talk about conscientious objection in Cyprus, wider than that. A very warm welcome to Gina and Murat. Thank you for joining us. And while I'm here, I'll just introduce Natalia, who will be our next speaker, who's joining us from Colombia. So we're very excited. I think it's early afternoon for you, Natalia, at the moment. Natalia Garcia Cortés. And I don't know whether you know, but the War Resisters International have different programs of work, and Natalia is the program worker for the Right to Refuse to Kill program, the War Resisters International. Going to speak with us about WRI, War Resisters International, and its work on conscientious objection all over the world and supporting conscientious objectors. And I think we'll also talk with us about conscientious objection in Colombia. So a warm welcome to Natalia. Thanks for joining us as well. That's wonderful. So if Gina and Murat are ready to go, we'll pass over to you. And
Thank you very much for the very kind invitation to speak to you tonight. Some known faces to us, some friends even from Cyprus joining. We'll do a joint presentation with Murat, trying to tackle the different, the difficult issue of Cyprus and the situation in Cyprus with regards to conscientious objection. But first, this is where Cyprus is, the middle of the world, you could say. So I have okay. So Murat will tell us a little bit about the situation in Cyprus to start with.
Okay. Now as you see that Cyprus is a very tiny island, but one of the most complicated conflicts. It is a internal and external problem, intercommunal conflict, and the intercommunal conflict as well. So briefly, it's hard to start, but Cyprus is the ex-British colonial, 60s declared the independence. Even on here, the problem is start because the Cypriot, Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot is not demand this independence. Suddenly we have found ourselves in the middle of the sovereign country, but unfortunately the leadership, outside leadership, is not accepted. Our topic is anti-militarism, so let's start about the military. Guess how many military unit army in the Cyprus? It's a tiny island, but too many. But again, it's interesting because most of them is illegal or undefined or not clear, or on base of the international law, it's forbidden to be here. 1960s, Cyprus declared independence with three guarantor countries. These three guarantor countries also sent symbolical military unit to Cyprus. The Greek one is Greece, name is Eldik, and the Turkish one, Republic of Turkey one is the Turdik, and they sent some amount of the military personnel. It's important because all these two units involved the conflict, the 74. The one of them is to prepare the coup involved the military coup, the 15th of the July, and the 20th of July they used the excuse and they occupied the 1/3 of the island, the Turkish army. So now we are starting to discuss about the military, the army situation of the southern part. But the 60s, one of the civilian conflict, not before the armed conflict, we have a constitutional conflict as well till the 63. On that period, that time the president of the Republic of Cyprus, Makarios, have some conflict with the Turkish Cypriot leadership and declare their own military army. Name is security guards. So but on base of the Republic of Cyprus constitution, it's not legal. But doctrine of necessity, it's continue. Still, they're acting like a army. For the Turkish Cypriot, first they established the 58 paramilitary group. This paramilitary group controlled by Turkey, and this paramilitary group first, after the 63 armed conflict, it's turned kind of the form army, and the 75 is turned to be the so-called official army, and this is now the Turkish Cypriot army. Quota is the official army, but these two military units, the general staff, appointed from the motherland. The Greek Cypriot army is general appointed from the Greece, and the Turkish Cypriot army is military staff appointed from Turkey. Apart from this part, Turkish on the northern part, after the 74, Turkey keep the Turdik. There is that one, and the occupational army also they keep on here. So in Cyprus, the 60s declared independence. 63 is intercommunal armed conflict start, and the 74 Turkey occupied the 1/3 of the island, and the huge population moving almost 40% of the population moving to south to north to south. So the ethnically cleansing two sides established the 74. This is the try to be the brief history of our conflict, and after the 74, two sides started to negotiation, and these negotiations continue till now with a different level to solving the problem. But the 74's occupational process, unfortunately, it's not have a official ceasefire process. So on this condition, we have at least 3 Turkish controlled military units. One of them is on base of the Republic of Cyprus constitutional Turdik on the northern part, the occupational forces, and the Turkish Cypriot military army. In the north, in the south, there is a Greek Cypriot army. But at the same time, the 60s, the Republic have an agreement with the Americans. So we have some American unit in the Cyprus as well. Lately, we have an agreement, military agreement with the French. So we have some French unit in the Cyprus. The plus United Kingdom have the 2 British bases on the island. So we have a British soldier as well. So the too many armies, too many flags, so complicated conflict, frozen conflict on that geography. This is the small brief situation of Cyprus.
So I will go on to say that on both parts, apart from all these armies, we have conscription on both parts, which is the duration is 14 months for the Republic and 12 months for the northern part. So Cyprus, with regards to the CO, conscientious objection, is one of the 7 remaining countries in which retains its conscription. The others being in the more wider Europe area, being Austria, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Greece, and Turkey. So there is conscription in both parts of the island. For the Republic of Cyprus, there is conscription. Some information, these are from the EPCO report, the latest EPCO report of 2019. The Republic has both signed and ratified the original protocol for the Convention of the Rights of Children on the Involvement of Children in Armed Conflict. There is a compulsory recruitment age of 18 and a voluntary recruitment age of 17. This means that if the boys finish, and the recruitment is only for the boys, for the men. This means that if the young man finishes school by the age of 17, he will enter the army. So this means that the original protocol is actually violated. The duration, as we said, is 14 months. The conscientious objection is recognized for conscripts, and this is since 1992, but it has been mainly used for Jehovah's Witnesses. For ideological objectors, we will see some figures a bit later on. There is no recognition for conscientious objection for professional soldiers. The civilian service, the alternative service offered to the conscientious objectors is 19 months, which is 37% more than the duration of the military service. Okay, I can. The recommendations both from EPCO and the Human Rights Council is to stop the voluntary recruitment of persons under the age of 18, to recognize the right of conscientious objection both for serving conscripts and professional soldiers, and to make a genuinely civilian service. Right now, the civilian service is administered by the Ministry of Defense and has this punitive duration, and even some labor's rights are not followed or adhered to by the civilian service. Here, these are some data which are quite interesting from the EPCO annual report, where we can see that Cyprus has a very high percentage of conscripts as part of the total strength of the armed forces. It's actually the highest in the European area. And the other way to measure how militarized is the society is to see the total armed forces manpower with the population. And you see again that Cyprus comes number 3 in the area covered by EPCO. Although the number might be small, as a percentage is rather high. Here we see the law which was passed in 1992. So as with many things in Cyprus, by the book we are okay, but in practice we are not following what we should be. So here you see the duration. Again, it's amongst the highest in Europe of the remaining places where there is conscription. So 19 months, which means that young men lose 2 years of their life, their academic life. And here is the recruitment age. the young boys need to actually volunteer their data at the age of 16, which makes our work a little bit more difficult, because at that time they are in the flow of the school process, and when at school comes one piece of paper that they need to sign and fill out their details, they don't realize, they don't even have the chance to think about objecting or what they could do. So as we said, the law is there, the service is there, the alternative service is there, but you need to really want it and really be aware of its existence in order to apply. So this is what we were saying before about the optional protocol, that in Cyprus, the conscription age is 18, meaning that they are liable to be conscripted by the age of 17. And this is something very, very serious. With regards to the Human Rights Council, there was a report from the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, and there was a mention with regards to the Republic, and you see the paragraph where it says that in Cyprus, although there is provision in law for conscientious objection to military service and substitute social service, information about these arrangements and access to them is problematic. Conscripts have no real access to information, and the deadline for applications for substitute service is very short, effectively raising a barrier to access to this right. In the same report, there was mention also for the northern part of Cyprus, where the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religious or Belief noted the absence of any provision in the northern part of Cyprus concerning conscientious objection, and recommended that the de facto authorities recognize this right and ensure that conscientious objectors have the option to perform alternative civilian service that was compatible with their reasons for conscientious objection and did not have punitive effects. In the submission for the analytical report, an organization observed that the parliamentary committee was investigating the possibility of instituting alternative service. And Murat will tell you a little bit more about, we were getting to a good point, but how it collapsed.
Okay.
Okay. In the northern part, as I started to explain, it's one of the European Court of Human Rights decision explained the areas as a subordinate local administration of Turkey. So the freedom of thought, freedom of expression is suppressed by the Turkish authorities as well. We have the limited freedom of thought. They don't touch us so harshly, but there is a limitation around us. So the first objector was Salih Askeroğlu, 1993. He declared he was called on the 80s to army. He rejected. So they illegally crossed the southern part and living on the southern part. When they started to trouble with some issues, his partner is Greek Cypriot. They try to move to the northern part again with his the families, Greek Cypriot, the partners, Yoda. Our authorities welcomed them, escaped from the barbarian Greek Cypriots, and acting them as a kind of hero. But some point they realized that Salih didn't do it. It's a military service and called to military service. And Salih say that who is my enemy. The Yoda's families is my enemy. So that he rejected to join the army. So the first official objectors campaign did 1993, but unfortunately they immediately arresting the Salih Askeroğlu and the long process, the military court process on that time. So it's hard, it's very difficult for all of us to do it something on this process. So because of that, our position is a little bit different than the Greek Cypriot. Turkish Cypriot youth graduated in the high school, can postpone their the military join the military service till the some extent. They are studying the university, post-university, continued, they can postpone it. And the too many Turkish Cypriot youth not want to join the military service, so that they are continue to their education till the end. Whenever they are find the way, they escape the island as well. So you can see the too many Turkish Cypriots who is living in the London, they continue their life and try to find a way to escape from the military service. But in the south and the north, we have another big problem as well. When you join the military army, it's not the process ends on there. After the military service, they call you as a reservist every year, the once a year, every time. So the militarization is continue after the military service as well. 2001, 2002, they called me the last time. They forced me, and unfortunately we don't have a good network, so I decided to get a risk and they joined the army, but everybody knows me. So I joined the military service, but they so careful. They don't give me the gun, and mainly I spent most of the time with the military personnel, civilian military personnel. So technically they don't push me, but at the end of the military service, it's a kind of trauma for me. And I realized that we should do it something, and we should challenge the system as well. So when they are calling me for the reservist service, we are talking with the EPCO as well. 2009, officially, I declare my objection and reject to join the reservist service. And they call me for the military court, and the process starts. So we are starting to challenge the system. The first, we are try to challenge the system that we say that the objection is the part of the freedom of thought, and this one is the so-called Turkish Republic of Northern part constitutional. So that we say that it is a conflict of the constitutional rights. So we are transferring my court case to the first time the Constitutional Court, and almost 2 years we're spending time in the Constitutional Court. But we are a little bit lucky, because when we are on the Constitutional Court process, European Court of Human Rights first time declared that with the Bayatyan case, it is the violation of the human rights about the freedom of thought. So it's the first case, and 2011 we get again. When it is our Anglo-Saxon system. So it's a so similar process with the UK. The first, we defend our position on the Constitutional Court. Then the states, they put their position. When we are put our position, the lawyer of the state try to challenging us that the Bayatyan and others is only the religious basis objectors. So they say that, yes, we recognize the objector right, but it's only the religious one. When we are waiting the second date for the hearing of the Constitutional Court, on that period, European Court of Human Rights declared another court case about the Mehmet Tarhan and Halil Savda. Both of them is the ideological basis. So when they are at the second hearing, we are very strong position. But unfortunately, we lost on there because military service also at the constitution. So, yeah, but the constitutional, the constitution decision say that yes, Murat have the right as a CO, but this right should be established by the law. So the parliament should do it something about these issues. So that they reject our case, and technically we lost, but practically we win that the position to challenge the system. When we're back to military court, they gave me the 10 days, they gave us the very calm punishment, very low fine, and or the 10 days. And we say that there is no crime on there, so we will not pay the fine. So because of that, military court sent me the 10 days to prison. On that period, we gained huge publicity. All the journalists do the interview, and so we gain a very good ground. And on that period, quickly committee, parliamentary committee, started to discuss some amendments. But after that, I released, again, they are frozen the process. So we wrote an article to them to try to challenge anything, but they didn't do anything. The second, our activist, Haluk Selam Tufanlı, also declared his objection, the same sources. Again, he went to the prison 10 days again, and that the big problems came out, and too many people again the discussion, and it's created big pressure on the parliamentary committees. But as I mentioned, that the Cyprus is so complicated the process. They postponed all our other accusation because they open a court case each year for us. For me, they open a 3 court case. I stay 10 days for the first one, but the second and the third one, they withdrawn because of the European Court of Human Rights court case process. They did the same things for the Haluk as well, Haluk Selam Tufanlı. But they frozen the process. And then the 2019, the new so-called progressive government came out. On that period, they decided to send an amendment for the military law, and we joined the parliamentary committees almost 2 months as a CO initiative. We are the temporary permanent member of the committee. We joined all the committee meetings. They invite the retired officers, the expertise, the political groups, bar. We discussed all level of the discussion, and we came to the very good conclusion. But unfortunately, the government fall. the end of the 2019, and the new government, unfortunately, withdrawing the process. But on this period, another our activist, Halil Karapashaoğlu, also went to the prison for the 20 days. We get another victory on there. We go to the appeal, and the High Court, the 4th day of the imprisonment of the Halil, decided that it's not a fair trial because the parliament discussed the issues, so they released the Halil. And they withdrawing all the other court cases of the Halil as well. So our situation now is a kind of the silence and waiting. They don't send any other court cases because we are expecting another our friend, activist, Erman's case, Erman and the H, but still they don't send him any court case. All of us have the different sensitivities. The Halil is a poet, so the too many art basis people interest the issues. The Haluk have the too many the connection, and the Erman is one of the good activists, activists of the LGBT communities as well. So when they are sent the Ermans to the prison, they know that we will mobilize the not only the anti-militarist groups, but the queer groups as well. So now they are frozen the process. They don't solve the problem, and they are expecting the decision of the European Court of Human Rights. Now I have the case in the European Court of Human Rights. Haluk also, and we are awaiting the answer for the Halil as well. So we are waiting the European Court of Human Rights decision. This is the short story of our situation about the CO in the northern part.
Yeah.
So, okay, I just realized that 2 slides went behind, so I will go back to give you some of the numbers for applications. EPCO had requested from the Ministry of Defense to tell us how many people have applied for to be recognized as conscientious objectors. These are the data that they have sent us from years 2009 to 2018. It was in 2019 that we issued the question. You can see here that the religious requests are mostly approved in their vast majority, whereas the ideological are very few. As we had said, at the age of 16, 17, a young man might not have completely formed their ideas and be ready to struggle against the system, against their family. So you see that there is only a few, but in the recent year, there is more coming up. What is more obvious is that there is a bigger trend for the reservists. These are men that come back after their studies, that are working and that have formed their ideas and what they want, and you see that the percentage of the ideological ones being approved is getting higher and higher. It's people who know exactly what they stand for. The religious are fewer compared to the previous ones because very few get converted to Jehovah's Witness to be a Jehovah's Witness after the age of 20. the other part of the anti-militarism and peace movement, in which we are both involved in, it entails other aspects as well. So I was asked by Karen to speak a little bit about Hands Across the Divide, which is a women's group in Cyprus, in which I belong. And also from what I saw at the beginning, the participants is another friend of mine who is also a member, Rita, member of Hands Across the Divide, or HAD for short. The first encounter was in a conference on women in divided societies, and this was back in March 2001. I was not involved in that at that time, there was the formation of an email group which called ourselves Cypriot Women's Group, and it was women from both parts of the island. And then we renamed ourselves in mid-2001 as Hands Across the Divide. HAD actually was formally established and registered in London in 2002. And all these women traveled from Cyprus, from both parts of Cyprus, to London just for the registration. We have a lot of activities, a lot of events surrounding peace. And one of these activities, one of the main ones, and most prominent, let's say, throughout this 20 years of action of HAD is the Peace Bus. We rent a bus and we go, members of Hands Across the Divide, we visit various villages and we talk to the people there, we talk to the women, but also the men, and we try to take people from the villages that used to be residents of that village before becoming refugees, and they meet the new people, and in this way we get people together. Actually, here is Rita on the right, who is participating at this seminar, and so we have many events, and at every village we go to, we plant some olive trees. So it's a very good way of connecting with the people of Cyprus and also amongst us. Another more recent event was the What Peace Means to You event, where we asked people to write on banners, what does peace mean to them? And it was this is at the Lidra Street checkpoint, it's on the border. So when the checkpoints were opening pre-COVID time, were open and people were crossing, it was one of the busiest crossing points for pedestrians. So people participated in this event. More recently, and rather a big success, I would say, was the discussion that one of our board members, Magda Zenon, had. She participated in a virtual roundtable discussion with the UN Secretary General to discuss the issues of women, peace and security in peacekeeping context. This video is actually online. I made a tiny URL for it. You can see it here. I can post the link on the chat as well if you want to see it, and it's the biggest link, the bigger link. And Magda is speaking between minutes 13 and 19. So this is what we had to say, and we are open to hear your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was really wonderful, wonderful presentation. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Murat. If you've got questions, please do let us know. Write them in the chat, or if you want to ask them in person, raise your hand, and I will come to you. Donald.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Yes. No, the question was really, is a tribunal system similar to that which was used in this country during just after the last war? And secondly, if there is it a military tribunal or a civilian tribunal to assess CO's competence?
Do you want to answer that while we wait for any other questions?
So if I understood correctly, you are asking about the court, if it's under the military or if it's under the civilians?
Yes, you have tribunals or courts, you call them.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it's not the same as the UK civilian tribunals, which were set up actually in 1916. Are they, or are they sort of like ordinary legal courts?
It's there is a court and there is a high and there is also a high court, which is also a constitutional court in the Republic. Most probably it's the same because we were a colony, so we have the British judicial system.
Yes.
And the same goes for the northern part as well.
All right. And you didn't answer whether it was military or civilian. Is it civilian?
The COs are actually judged in the military court. It is a military court on both parts of the island.
Well, that makes quite a difference, really. I think there should always be civilian courts that assess this conscientious objection. But anyway, thanks very much.
The assessment is actually done by a committee which is under the Ministry of Defense, but in which it is the members of the committee is a law officer of the Republic, two professors, a psychology and a sociology professor, and two military people, one a military doctor, medical doctor, and one military.
Thanks very much.
So again, it's influenced by the military.
Yes, I know it was set up by the Ministry of Defense, as you mentioned in the talk. Yes, thanks very much. The reason I'm interested, I was a CO in the last World War II, and of course the tribunal was an important part of a conscientious objector's ability to put his views across, you know.
I would like to say a few things about it. It is a military court, but beginning of the 2000s, some journalists went to the European Court of Human Rights about the issues because they took a picture, they sent him to military court, and the journalists went to the European Court of Human Rights. On that period, they changed the law and appointed the civilian judge. So the building is a military building. It is a military unit, but the judge and the attorney is a civilian. It's appointed by the High Council of the judge. So it is a hybrid system. So the second time we tried to went to the Constitutional Court, our position is about the fair trial. On that period, the Constitutional Court immediately rejected us about the fair trial because the judge and the system is the internal process is the civilian.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
In the chat, I've just seen Brian Rutherford ask, is Cyprus in NATO?
Not yet. There is a resistance about it, but one of the so-called safety or security issues, there's a suggestion that the new federal Cyprus to be a member of the NATO. Hope not. But still, we are out of the NATO. Out of NATO, but again, we are in the NATO as well, because we have a 3 guarantorship, and the 3 guarantorship is Turkey, Greece, and UK. All of them is the part of the NATO, and Cyprus cannot change the constitutional without getting the permission from this guarantorship. So we are out, but in the NATO. Technically, we are in.
Thank you. Any other questions? Karen.
Thank you both, Gina and Murat. That's fantastic. I was very struck by, well, the doggedness, that keeping going at all the legal processes, and how you managed to, how important support was in pressuring the legislators. I just wondered whether you could say a little bit more about it sounds like you have a really amazing group around you and supporting each other, but maybe times it was difficult as well.
Oh, come on then. You're jumping up.
Okay, let me tell you, for sure the process with all the court hearings, and going to constitutional court and the military court, and there were postponements at each and every one. There was more and more people getting interested. Murat is quite a known figure in both parts of the island, so this helped the movement quite a bit to grow. So in the north, people know him very well, and they are supporting. In the south, some were actually supporting for the wrong reasons. They were supporting because he's against Turkey, so it's a good thing. But then when you say no, we're against all armies, and it is like, but we are under occupation. So during the 10 days actually that Murat was in prison, it was unbelievable, the reaction and the response we had from the whole world, really. We were having an event every day, every night, either outside the prison or another location, somewhere focused to poetry, to art, to music. We were doing, and it was cold. It was in February. It was a very cold year, but every night people were in the streets. It wasn't a big number, but because of social media, we were taking pictures, we were taking videos, posting them afterwards. So this gained quite a bit of publicity, and in my view, it has helped a lot for the movement to grow, especially in the south with the reservists. Because people started to think, and yes, politically they think with regards to the Cyprus issue and what should be done, shouldn't be done. So it was a case of, this guy is our age and he can do it, he can challenge the system, why not us? And especially since in the Republic, there is the provision. So for a Greek Cypriot man that has to go present himself to reserve service a few times a year, it's the same number for reserve service. The alternative reserve service is the same duration. So instead of going one day to the army, he can go one day to the hospital or to the forestry department. So a lot of people actually did the challenge, and it seems that the authorities are a bit more, let's say, lenient in accepting or not making such a big fuss with recognizing conscientious objectors. Although even for conscripts, lately there have been some very, very strong cases with very impressive arguments. I mean, they sent us some of their statements that they submit for the committee, and it's really truly amazing, all the views, and they're all different views, because CO, everybody has their own. Not everybody has the same conscience, and for them things are different, issues are more important. So the movement has grown, but we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we need to retain our energies because, as Murat has said, we will have a big struggle ahead with the guys, especially in the northern part, either for their military service or their reserve service when they are refusing to go.
Any last questions before we move on to Natalia?
Before we go to the question, I would like to do one sentence. As EPCO and as WRI, every time we say that solidarity is save the life. So on this CO issues, solidarity is a key issue. So because of that, we are so care about the solidarity. So whenever hear anything, now the too many young people in the Israel, young people on the prison. So the showing the solidarity is so valuable for the protect their life as well. So we would like to show your solidarity in any way, any the channels to protect our the friends.
Great, thank you. Any last questions for Gina or Murat? No. Okay, in which case I will hand over to Natalia Garcia Cortés from Colombia to talk about the experience there. Thank you, Natalia.
Great. Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks to Conscious for the invitation to speak in this webinar. I will speak more about this later, but for WRI, it's really important to raise awareness about conscientious objections. So for us, it's really valuable to be here and share some of the work we do, specifically in the Right to Refuse to Kill program. As Karen mentioned, and also Jonathan, I'm Natalia, and I'm based in Bogota, Colombia. And I'm the Director of Refuse to Kill program worker at Forest Sisters International. I would like to start mentioning briefly what WRI is, in case it's the first time you hear about us. So Forest Sisters International is a global network of anti-militarist and pacifist grassroots organization and individuals committed to the removal of all war causes. So currently we run 3 programs: the Nonviolence program, the Right to Refuse to Kill program, and the Countering of Militarization of Youth program. Since its foundation in 1921, Conscientious Objection has been at the core of WRI's work. And in fact, WRI was founded by conscientious objectors and other activists during World War I. Yeah, and I believe Conscious held a webinar around CO during this period. So just to let you know that WRI was there. So yeah, WRI's Right to Refuse to Kill program take a broad definition of conscientious objections. So we include declared objectors and total objectors, but also deserters and non-declared draft avoiders, and also refugees fleeing recruitment. And we approach conscientious objection from a human rights perspective, but also we believe that conscientious objection is a non-violent strategy for resistance to war and anti-militarism. We think that conscription is one of the most visible forms of militarism. So that's why we think CO is an important first step to challenge it. And usually groups and movements that start campaigning for the recognition of CO in their countries continue challenging militarism in other forms. So before sharing what we specifically do in the Right to Refuse to Kill program, I would like to mention why we value so much international solidarity, and as Murat just said, and why every action we take and every step we take, we try to connect with others and raise awareness about specific situations and conflicts. We know that each country has their own background and conflicts and government policies. So we understand that it's easy to feel isolated when so many things are happening at the same time. And I think this year, and probably every year, reminded us about that. So yeah, we think like through international solidarity, we think that peace activists and CEOs can feel supported. We can make their voices heard beyond borders, and in general, our campaigns can get stronger and more effective. So we split our work in different ways. So first, we directly support CEOs and CEO movements. So we are a resource for CEOs, and we try to respond to their needs like in the best way we can. We also publicize information on CEO and conscription to the broader public. So we do this like in three ways. First, we have the World Survey of Conscientious Objection and Conscription. So if you go to our website, you will find like a list of all the countries in the world, and there's information. Some of them need to be updated, but you can read information about conscription and conscientious objection in different countries. We also have the CEO update, and it's our newsletter where we share news and stories about conscientious objection and conscription. And this year we held 3 webinars. The first one was in January. We co-organized it with Centro de las in the Spanish state. And we talk about one of the reports on purple washing in the Spanish army. So how, the army was using this kind of like gender equality discourse to recruit women and to say that, oh, we are not that bad because there's women, with us. And in May, we held a webinar on conscientious objection and asylum, co-organized with the Quaker United Nations office and also Connection EV, that it's one of our affiliates in Germany. So yeah, we talk about like, refugees seeking CEO. There are refugees and they're seeking asylum in many countries, especially in Europe. And just recently, we held a webinar on Turkey and conscientious objection. What is the situation there? Also, we try to organize our work around actions of solidarity. So for example, on May 15th is the International Conscientious Objection Day. So we take this as an opportunity to organize solidarity around CO to military service. And sometimes during this day, we focus on a specific country. So for example, in 2018, we decided to focus on South Korea. At that moment, there were many conscientious objectors in prison. So yeah, we did like a postcard action kind of thing. And actually that same year in June, the Constitutional Court recognized conscientious objection. So of course, this was a result of the grassroots work, but also WRI's network involvement in that. And in 2019, we decided to focus on Colombia. We were organizing an international conference that year that happened here in Bogota. So we thought it was a good idea to let people know what is the situation of conscientious objection here in Colombia and other issues that are still happening, but were happening in 2019. And this year we had many plans, but we have to change it because of the pandemic. So what we did this year on May 15, we created a YouTube channel called Refuse to Kill. And we uploaded some videos from conscientious objectors around the world. And also we try to raise awareness around asylum seekers and conscientious objection. And for next year, we are in touch with the CEO Association in Turkey. And we will focus on the situation of the CEOs in Turkey as they are facing civil death. That means they cannot access to education or like jobs. Yeah, they find it difficult to travel. So we will do that next year. Another action around solidarity that we do is the CEO alerts. So whenever a CEO is imprisoned or irregularly recruited, we encourage people to send an email to the authorities. So yeah, to pressure them to release them. So we had 2 recent CEO alerts, one from a CEO in Israel and another one in Colombia. And yeah, we received the good news that both were released. So yeah, that was good. And also we have Prisoners for Peace Day, that is on December 1st. So we share on our website names of CEOs or activists imprisoned for their peace work, and we encourage people to send letters to them to let them know that we stand in solidarity. We also try to bring campaigners together. So we did that in the international conference we had here in Colombia. So many activists and CEOs could share their own experiences and their successful campaign examples. So we also find it really valuable when we can meet and we can talk about what else we can do. We produce also other resources. So we have 2 books. One is the Practical Companion for Movements, and it's in English and Spanish. I have the Spanish version here. And yeah, we try to make our publications as accessible as possible, like in 4 languages, mainly English, Spanish, French, and German. And also we have an anthology of women conscientious objectors. And yeah, finally, we collaborate with other organizations that work on conscientious objection issues. So currently we are organizing with Quaker United Nations Office and IFOR, a webinar series on CEO for campaigners. So if everything goes well, we will do that next year. And if you want to know when this will happen, you can subscribe to our newsletters, so you will receive our updates on that as well. So yeah, as you can tell, we try to support CEOs around the world in as many ways as we can, but we also know that we don't only need the recognition of right of conscientious objection or the elimination of conscription. In the last 5 years or so, like several countries have, no, a number of countries have reintroduced it. This is the case of Morocco, for example, where it was, conscription was reintroduced, and also in Honduras, there's this initiative to reestablish compulsory military service after many years of its abolition. Also in some countries, armies are trying to recruit young people, like in many ways, like in schools or through online platforms as well. So for example, in France, in June 2019, we knew about a pilot national civic program, and basically they are just targeting like young people to train them like in a military way. And also there's this project in Germany that is called Your Year for Germany, and they're just trying to recruit young people for their professional army. And yeah, so in this point is where we link the Right to Refuse to Kill program with the Countering of Militarization of Youth program as well. So we work together between those programs. And also we have known that some countries are proposing the introduction of compulsory military service for women, arguing gender equality. And that's the case of Colombia, Mexico, and this year the United States Congress was debating to expand draft registration for women. So that is happening as well. So yeah, as you see, like militarism and armies find ways to impose themselves in people's life, even if conscription is abolished, even if CO is recognized. I think in the practical companion for movements book, we have a couple of chapters that reflect on this. So if you're interested to know what happens to CO movements when conscription doesn't exist anymore, well, you can check that out as well. And yeah, I think this was like a quick summary of what we do and have done in the past, and what I wanted to share with you today. Yeah, looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Natalia, for sharing your insights about War Resistance International and the related activities in Colombia. We would now like to hear from our participants. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and Jonathan will unmute you. Alternatively, use the chat below and write your question and I'll read that on your behalf. So any questions?
Yeah, just to say what Brian posted on the chat box. Yeah, I was referring to Halel. She was one of the recent CEOs that we sent in our CEO alert. So we're really happy that she got released. Yes.
Donald Saunders.
Yes, I think I'm correct in saying that your organization has been going since the First World War. Is that so?
Since 1921.
Since
1921.
Yes, I thought so. I wasn't quite sure it was during the First World War or before the Second World War. I knew it had been going for a long time. And of course, I was the conscientious objection, I've said before, during the Second World War. And the organization was very helpful to COs in this country. So I appreciated your talk very much indeed, and it was most informative, I think, for people who perhaps hadn't heard of the organization or didn't know much about it. So I think you did jolly well in putting the case for the organization, which is an excellent organization. And thanks very much for that. Because I think, you see, there's definitely increased militarization, even in this country now. The last few years, there's been a definite increased militarization in schools, all sorts of different fields, you see, and Armed Forces Day and things like this. And I don't know, it's not a very good sign internationally that all these countries are developing in the same way, but the military club are really almost taking over. And I think it's completely wrong, of course. The world, we're not going to have peace as long as we have all this militarization. Thank you anyway. It's very, very good.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. And actually next year is our centennial. So of course, Conscious is super invited to participate in what we are planning to have next year. But yeah, it's been so long since WRI was funded.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. A question from Richard.
Natalia, thank you very much. Is the right to be a conscientious objector recognized by the government of Colombia?
Yeah, so in 2017, it got recognized. It is not like a country law, but a military law. So the conscientious objection is recognized in the recruitment law. That's the name. And since 2017, the applications for conscientious objection has increased. But there's like some irregularities in the process, and especially because the committee that yeah, like take these cases and applications is like basically the army. So there's like 4 members of the army and then 1 of the civil society. So yeah, sometimes even like this 5th member is not there. But yeah, there's many organizations supporting CEOs here in Colombia. And before Conscientious Objection was recognized, every year the army needs to recruit at least 10,000 young men. And because they need to like cover this quota, they had this practice that is called batidas. So what they usually did was like go into the streets and ask for the military card to young men. And if they didn't have it, they immediately recruit them. So that was like another process for the groups here in Colombia, and also WRI was involved in that because yeah, that was illegal, and that practice stopped after a few years. But Partidas was really yeah, problematic and happened like every year. So even like young men has to like hide themselves just to not be like recruited that way. Fortunately, that doesn't happen anymore, but because of the law and all the work groups have done. But yeah, like the process is not the best. And in Bogota, like the capital city works fine, but there are some other regions in the country that doesn't happen like in Bogota. But yeah, it's recognized.
Can you give us an idea of, in any particular year, how many people apply to be conscientious objectors and how many people actually succeed?
I need to check like the numbers, but I will tell you in a second. I don't know if there's any other question, but I can tell you that number.
There are a few questions. So there's a question from Ian, which says, can you please say more about the challenge of opposing the military conscription of women?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what the army tries to do usually is to show themselves as not that bad. So that's why they're taking the gender equality discourse for themselves. So that's really challenging because even when women and other folks, we would like to be treated as equal, now they're using that to include us in their own dynamics. So yeah, like when people hear, oh no, but they're recruiting women as well, that's like progress. At the end, it's not, it's difficult to raise awareness like in the society just because they think like it's good that we are being included in those positions. Or like, yeah, that's like a challenge for sure.
Thank you, Natalia. And we have one more question from Monica. Can you say a bit more about why some countries are reintroducing conscription?
Yeah, I don't have like an answer for that. Like the why countries are doing that exactly. For me, it's like militarism still is happening in the world. Like it hasn't stopped even when conscription is abolished. And there's conflicts between countries and yeah, people trying to take territories from others and things like that. So I think they always find like an excuse or a reason to recruit people. So for example, in Honduras, the reason was because there was lots of insecurity and gangs. So they were saying, oh no, now we need again the military to face this situation. So they try to find what is happening, I think, in their own countries just to justify yeah, the return of conscription on because there's always like an enemy either inside of the countries or like outside. So they try to do that, I think. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. Any more questions to Natalia?
I'm trying to find the numbers for.
Yes, Fair enough. So during that time, can you please, Jonathan, unmute Murat? He would like to give, just share a small note.
Yes, we are jump on the discussion, but before the close, we would like to thanks to Donald, because it's a very hard time. They declare their objection, and now we are following their steps. So we would like to thank all their efforts. So they still. He's in his field. I guess 2-3 years ago, we were in London. We did a small anniversary event on there. So we would like to thank to him that he's challenging us as well, and we are looking them there and they follow the situation. Thanks, Donald.
Thank you, Murat. So.
Sorry,
that's all right. Of course, take your time.
Yeah, I didn't have them on the hand. Okay, so there was like a report that 2 organizations here, or 3, I think, in Colombia published. So in 2017, 117 applications were made. 103 were for reason and 14 for other reasons. And that year, between August 2000 October 2018, 422 applications were made, and only there was like pending. So the process is like you applied, the commission evaluate your application, and if your application is not approved, you can apply again to another like higher commission, and you can do that like 2 times.
If you're saying 371 were approved, I find that a very encouraging figure.
Yeah, I think it is. But sometimes this is something that groups say here, like because the commission is like made itself like only by army members. So they try to discourage young men when they are like presenting their application, like saying, oh no, that's illegal, or no, that doesn't exist. Or they ask questions like, but what about if like someone from an armed group want to kill your mom or things like that, just to discourage them or like to answer like wrong. So they usually do use this like really messed up strategies just to avoid them either to apply or like to deny their applications. But yeah, it was like a really good number, but I think it's really low applications comparing to 14,000 young men being recruited each year. Like 500 is just like really few, but I think like yeah, from 2017 to 2020, like there's been more, but it's not like a lot. I think like people either don't know that they have the right, or they're just like scared to do it, so they prefer just to do the military service.
Thank you very much. This is the last time I will speak. I was called up for national service in around 59 in this country, and I refused, and I went before a tribunal, and I was advised before I went before the tribunal that unless I applied on religious grounds, I was very unlikely to succeed. And I applied on secular grounds. And although they asked me all these trick questions that you've just been mentioning, they managed to approve my application, and I spent 2 years working in a hospital which I've never regretted. And I'd like to thank Murat and Gina and yourself for your contributions. And I think it's a lonely path to follow, but a very worthwhile one.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Natalia, for answering all these questions. Any more questions? No? Great. So thank you, everyone. Now Jonathan will be sharing a bit more information about the next webinars.
So thank you, everyone. I want to say a massive thank you to Murat and to Gina and to Natalia as well. Wonderful, wonderful evening. Some great contributions. So thank you, everybody. Our next webinar will be in February, looking at conscientious objection to financial conscription. We've still got dates and speakers to be confirmed on that. So if you want to hear more information on that, please subscribe to our newsletters, our emails, follow us on social media, check our website. And please visit our website for more information on the webinars. The links, this, as we said earlier, this will be posted to YouTube and Facebook later. So if you want to see it back or watch our previous ones, please check on the website or even on our YouTube as well. And thank you very much for joining us. We will leave the call open. If anyone would like to carry on talking or talk in the chat, you're all free to unmute yourselves. So I will stop sharing on Facebook. I will stop recording.